lot of people have a great respect for Anna Eshoo, and I'm one of her biggest fans on the stuff we do on. But I want to follow up on this line because it really tells the same story that happened in my congressional district. Mr. Sherman, I think what helps answer this question is, if you were to build in a community of like size, what would be your cost of capital?
One, it would be a tremendous cost because you have to go through.
What we're talking about, what would you have to borrow?
Oh, my guess is, in our case, we would do it differently. We're a private company. We fund things differently. We do things differently.
What would it cost?
We haven't shown in Hayes, but say it's $30–40 million for a company.
So when the government gives a grant to a competitor, what's their cost of capital?
Well, in this particular case, their cost is going to the government. It's a whole different process than going to a private institution to do that.
Yeah, I mean, the grant is a grant.
The grant
is free money.
It's $50 million, and the loan
free money. Our taxpayers' money overbuilding a competitor who pays taxes. That is why we messed up royally when we did not go by the broadband map. When we don't develop a map and you don't know the direction of which you're heading, then you subsidize competing entities. You give taxpayer money to companies to compete against people who are providing the level of service that we want across the country. I have what we think is now a recent one, just got it today. The light area, 0 to 2,000. Darker areas, these are areas that are unserved or underserved. And we still don't have good maps. So we gave money to a competitor of yours, a grant. They didn't have to borrow it. They don't have to pay interest on it. And they're competing with you. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Isn't that the beef?
It's the beef that it makes it really tough for a private employee-owned company to compete against the government with taxpayer dollars that I pay a part of. Correct.
And that's why when we had the markup of the bill, why we tried to, on our side, say, let's have this debate of underserved and unserved. And if we're going to spend taxpayer dollars, let's have taxpayers go to unserved areas. Would you have had a beef if this company came in and said, we want a grant and we're going to an area that's not served?
I think that's the perfect part of this program, to reach unserved Kansans, unserved Americans with the project.
Would that have met the goals of the administration and the broadband plan?
From my standpoint, it would have been exactly what they were looking for.
When we give taxpayers money to overbuilding an area, doesn't that delay our ability to reach our broadband plan for the country?
It certainly refocuses money to people that already have multiple providers. And then as the result of people on that map you've shown, there are those areas that don't have broadband. And so those people then don't have the resources that they need.
And there are stories like this all over the country. And there's one in my district, too. And so I'm going to turn to Mr. Zinsser and Ms. Fong. In my district, I have an incumbent provider who currently exceeds the broadband guidelines being published and considered by the FCC in the development of a national broadband plan. They are providing speeds of 10 megabits down and 1 megabit up in all communities they serve. They also continue to invest private capital, cost of business, capital formation, to surpass the FCC broadband deployment speeds. You can imagine they were shocked to hear that another provider would be moving into their service area who had committed to providing wireless service at 3 megabits. Now, this entry came how? How did this new entry come into the market? The federal government, a grant, overbuilding competing services that meet the national broadband plan. This story gets worse because this company then immediately sells to a business. So they get the government money, they then sell out to a larger company. Was that your plan, Ms. Fong?
Well, just
is that what we
just
wanted to do? Is that what we really, was that our plan?
I don't know. I'm the Inspector General and
All right, let me
not
go to Mr.
responsible for
Finster.
delivery of the
Was
program.
that the plan?
Well, we are responsible for overseeing the program. We're not responsible for running the program, but it doesn't really sound like that should be part of the plan, sir.
I agree. Thank you. I yield back my time.